DeJoy is making a big announcement. He's halting some cost-saving changes to the post office until after the election. And that comes after Democrats claim the Trump administration was trying to sabotage the election by delaying mail-in voting. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi leading the charge with accusations like this one.
Don't pay attention to them. Their purpose is to frighten people from voting. The more chaos they can create, the more fear they can instill about, well, your vote's not going to count anyway, it won't matter, and it's probably corrupt and get caught up in stuff. That's their purpose.
And President Trump not backing down on the issue of mail-in voting.
The Democrats want to make it a political issue. It's not a political issue. It's really about a correct vote. You have to get voting right. You can't have millions and millions of ballots sent all over the place. Universal is going to be a disaster, the likes of which our country has never seen. It'll end up being a rigged election, or they will never come out with an outcome. They'll have to do it again. And nobody wants that, and I don't want that.
Okay, so Juan, after several days of this back and forth between the Republicans and the Democrats, now you have the Postmaster General saying that some of the controversial ideas that he can defend, but they're controversial, so he's going to put them off until after the election. Will that help satisfy the Democrats that the post office will do whatever it can to do the job in November?
Well, I think they have reason to doubt it. Clearly, this is an example of activism working. You had 20 states. Their attorneys general were going to file suit because the conduct of the post office and elections should be a state and congressional issue, not up to the president, not up to the post office. So what you have here, Dana, I think is a situation where, Trump, you just heard him say, the Democrats are trying to make more out of this than it is. We just want an election that's run fairly. But when you, in fact, start pulling mailboxes, when you do away with mail sorting machines, 10% of them, when you say you're going to have service cuts and you start firing people, well, then the reality is that you are undermining the ability of people to mail in their ballots and expect that they will be counted in November. And for all the, saying, oh, we never intended to impact the vote, there's Trump's own quote to Maria Bartiromo in which he said, and here I quote, if we don't make a deal, if we don't give them that money, they can't have universal mail-in voting. He thinks mail-in voting is going to hurt him, although, guess what? He votes by mail-in.
But, Katie, so since then, though, there is going to be legislation. It looks like now the Democrats are going to have to come to the table because they want this money for the post office. The president said he's willing to do that. And you have DeJoy basically taking off the table the things that the Democrats were concerned about and having a hearing about next Monday.
Yeah, this is what we call compromise and common sense. So the Postmaster General is trying to get ahead of any accusations that Democrats are going to throw at them on Monday. And a lot of these decisions about taking away mailboxes were made far before this. And under the Obama administration, 14,000 mailboxes were removed because they were inefficient and they were a waste of post office resources and a waste of taxpayer money. So this is a conspiracy theory to say that the administration is deliberately locking up mailboxes or getting rid of them when this has been going on as part for the course for the post office for a long time. But in terms of the Democrats here politically, this is so obviously political and transparent for them. You had Ben Cardin, Senator Ben Cardin on Neil Cavuto's show yesterday saying that, well, make sure you get your ballots in early, mail them in now as soon as possible. Well, I wonder why they want that to happen, because there hasn't been a debate. Joe Biden is still hiding and he's still ahead in the polls. So of course they want people to vote before there's a debate, before Joe Biden has to actually talk about what his plans are for the country, which is why they're encouraging this now instead of waiting until later. And by the way, one more thing. No matter how many billions of dollars we dump into the post office before November, even if this legislation passes, it's not going to fix the problems of the post office by November, or if ever, by the way.
Greg, there was a tweet from Jamie Lee Curtis in which she showed a doctored picture, basically. It turned out to be not true, right, about these mailboxes being taken away, but Twitter didn't take that tweet down. They like to take other tweets down.
I guess they would call that one of those true lies.
Ooh.
Thank you very much.
Very
You
good.
set that up ahead of time. I'm calling it.
I love how you can't defund the post office, but you can defund the police, right? Here's an organization that we all know has major problems, that's lost billions every year, while actually losing your mail. But how dare you criticize the Postal Service? I question your patriotism, good sir. And this is from a party that spent the better part of this decade demonizing the police, and at least 40 years demonizing the military, probably since the Vietnam War. So I'm just really excited that we're having a hearing over that, because that always gets to the bottom of these problems. My favorite part of this is having to do with these pictures. Like, as if this thing just happened. All the changes in the Postal Service are being implemented well before this ever happened, right? Claire McCaskill tweets a picture of these, like, sealed post office boxes. She gets the city wrong, the date of the picture wrong, and the reason, right? Why are boxes sealed? Not to prevent mail going in, you bozos. It's to keep people from stealing. They do the little fishing thing to get the mail out of it, so sometimes they have to put locks on them, and then they put another hole on the other side. But I don't want to get in the weeds on this because, as Katie says, this is the conspiracy theory that the media embraces and loves. God help you if you have a conspiracy theory and you're a conservative, though, because then you're just nuts.
Well, then over to you, Jesse.
Darn it. Perfect timing again. Listen, it sounds to me like the Democrats know they're going to lose, so they're already playing the blame game to avoid accountability and undermine the legitimacy of Trump's second term, just like they did the first term. There's 4 issues here. One, just bailout politics. Trump wants strings attached. He wants to reform it and make it more efficient. Democrats want 25 bill to their union who endorsed Joe Biden so they can keep cranking out OT. The second thing is this: the post office has enough money for the election. They've said it. The Biden campaign has said it. They're just saying, hey, listen, guys, we're not going to be able to get the ballots into you on time if you say you can request a ballot 4 days before the election. You know who has a problem with this? The states. They can't send the ballots out, address them, collect them, process them, and count them in enough time to know who won the election. Plus, we all know about the fraud and the timing. The third thing is, Juan, you want to know why people are sending less mail? It's because of email. Wow, email. That might have something to do with why they're moving these boxes around. And listen, last thing, Dr. Fauci, God himself, said there is no danger in in-person voting. Remember, Biden wants everybody to wear a mask. Masks work. Strap the mask on, vote, and no one else except you will know who you voted for.